everybody. It is wonderful to see you, and thank you so much to those of you who are keeping your cameras on, even though you're muted. We really do appreciate that. It's wonderful to see faces, and we know we don't get the exact same human connection as if we're all here in person, but we're really grateful for technology because it does allow us to meet, even though we're all over the world. So that's really wonderful. And I'm really excited because today we're interviewing Dov Girnun, and thank you so much, Dov, for generously joining us today. I know it does take time and energy out of your schedule. And for those of you who don't know and haven't met Dov, he is the CEO and founder at Merchant Capital, which is an innovative company. We love South Africa, established in 2012, and it really stands at the forefront of providing working capital to the SME sector in South Africa. And I want to get this award right, so I've got it here. Their Merchant Capital was honored with the prestigious Best Small Business Funding Solution Award at the 2020 FinTech Awards by the UK-based Wealth and Finance magazine. And I really think that underscores their exceptional work and standing by the SME industry in very challenging times. So that was a global recognition of their innovative approach to financing solutions, which is wonderful. So congratulations, Dov.
Thank you.
And so I think most of you here know me. My name is Jane, for those of you who don't, from Out of Box Thinking. And I spend most of my time training companies around the world to attract, select, and retain top talent. And I also love coaching people to succeed in interviews. But today, my delight is interviewing Dov, and for us all here to learn a little bit more about how to hire top performers, which has always been Dov's focus ever since Merchant Capital started. And so, Dov, we're really excited to hear from you. So please do remain muted for the rest of us. And as I say, there will be a chance for you to unmute and ask lots of questions and engage with Dov. So, Dov, please start off by adding anything to your introduction that you feel I may have missed, because we'd love to hear your story of how Merchant Capital started and what your vision was in starting the organization.
Great, thank you, Jane, and really thank you for the warm intro. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to meet all of the people on the webinar, and I look forward to engaging with all of you at some stage. I would prefer this to not be a monologue, and I would really prefer this to be an interactive discussion. And I just think that's where the magic happens, when people can kind of talk interactively and ask questions, and hopefully provide some answers. And yeah, Jane, you did mention that we're having some issues with our connectivity, but for now it seems fine. But if I do need to log off, I'll just log back in on my 3G, and hopefully it won't be too disruptive. So yeah, so great to meet you all, Jane. Thanks for having me. Would you like me just to spend a couple of minutes just giving a little bit of my history or the founding of Merchant Capital? Would that be useful?
Yeah, we'd love that. Please do share your background and story from your perspective, because sometimes we just see the gloss, and we really would love to know. Yeah.
Yes, it's a saying that I love. I didn't make it up, but I always say it. It's taken 11 years to create an overnight success. So there's no such thing.
I do love that.
So we, as you can imagine, as you can figure out from the maths, we started Merchant Capital 11 years ago, so kind of in the beginning of 2012. And maybe just 20 seconds on kind of who I am, or a little bit of time before that. So born and bred in South Africa, in Johannesburg. I spent about 5 or 6 years straight out of university living in London. And I was in the city there as a trader at one of the hedge funds, but every year couldn't wait to come back to South Africa, frankly. And I'm a huge South African optimist and patriotic about this country, notwithstanding the challenges that we all know very well about. But yeah, couldn't wait to get back to South Africa. And that was the best decision that I've ever made. And I say that non-flippantly. And kind of have always been entrepreneurial. mostly the stuff that I did in my early days were unsuccessful, but learned a huge amount. And then thankfully Merchant Capital, which was really been my big entrepreneurial or main entrepreneurial journey, has been a one of success, at least in the way that I keep score. And yeah, so the business was founded really out of a personal kind of experience around, as I said, being an entrepreneur and understanding how difficult it was, specifically in the early days, to get access to working capital to grow your business. So traditionally, not just in South Africa, but globally, banks are not very well formulated or set up to serve small businesses and SMEs and entrepreneurs, because they don't really understand them, and the risk is different to what they would while banking a corporate. So we kind of found an opportunity and some white space here in South Africa to try and create an alternative working capital solution to help entrepreneurs and SMEs grow in South Africa. And as I said, out of, kind of the product, notwithstanding the fact that it's a good product and it's smart and innovative and profitable, it was kind of born out of a real passion of mine about helping entrepreneurs, having been and still being an entrepreneur myself, and really kind of viscerally and personally understanding the challenge that small business owners have, as I say, specifically in the early days. So we started Merchant Capital in 2012 with that founding principle, and kind of proud to say that 10, 11 years later, that's still all we do. I would argue that we do it a little bit better than we did in 11 years ago, but we have been laser focused on kind of not being distracted from doing other things. And we've been very tempted, and we've listened to a lot of interesting opportunities and ideas, but we've said no to basically everything. And I think looking back a decade, with the benefit of hindsight, that's probably been one of the reasons that have helped us, kind of get to where we are today, is just being acutely and laser focused on what our founding principle is, and that's really helping small businesses grow in South Africa. So maybe just a little bit more on that. We provide an unsecured, what we call a business cash advance. So typically to businesses that have been trading for around 12 months or more. So we don't do startup funding. We typically fund businesses that have been around for at least 12 months or 2 years. And we provide a very simple, easy, frictionless product that allows businesses to grow their business without having to worry about the cash flow repayments. And I can get into a little bit detail later on around the kind of the collection mechanism and the way we do things. But we have managed to kind of attract some large institutional shareholders over the last decade. And two of them, kind of to note, would be Rand Merchant Investment Holdings. They bought a 25.1% stake in our business in 2016. And they are their investment holding company for, or they were at least, they've recently been unbundled, but certainly at the time they were the investment holding company for FirstRand, which would be FNB, Westbank and Ashburton, for Discovery and Outsurance and MMR, which are obviously large insurance and healthcare providers, and they owned RMB, and so it's that group that bought the stake in our business. And then in 2018, Standard Bank bought a strategic equity stake in our business, and I'll talk a little bit around that a bit later, because that was the big kind of catalyst in what changed the trajectory in our business. And there may be some metrics which I'm more than happy to share. Is we've now funded off our own balance sheet. So again, just to be clear, it's all our own funding, our own balance sheet. It's our credit scoring. We own the customer. We own the whole customer journey and experience from kind of cradle to grave. So we have funded now just under 10 billion Rand of funding over the last decade to around 50,000 small businesses. So we've helped and grown 50,000 small businesses over the last decade. Wow. And, we're probably doing now, we're funding probably in the region of about 400 to 500 million Rand a month into the small business sector, to between 500 and 700 kind of new businesses. And that's kind of all new businesses. So we've really carved out now the leading position as the largest alternative bank financier in South Africa.
Wow.
And it's easy to talk about now, but as I say, it's taken 11 years to create that overnight success. So I can categorically say that the reason that we've managed to be in the position that we're in is unequivocally because of the team that we have. And there's people around me who will argue with me, and they'll tell me we've got the best technology in the world, we've got the best funding lines, we've got the cheapest access to finance, we've got the best product, etc. I think all of those things are true, but I will still argue that the reason our core differentiator is the people that we have in this business. And that's why, certainly, Jane, the topic of today's conversation is so, is close to home for me. And kind of as the founder and still very much the CEO of Merchant Capital, I'm the custodian of the culture. I'm the custodian of the people that we bring into this business. And this is a topic that is incredibly close to home. And, it's a real privilege. And I'm super excited to talk about it because, as I say, I think that's what's been our real differentiator. So I'm going to stop there. I'm more than happy to talk about some of the stuff that we're doing in the future. We've also started an international business, and I'm going to talk about how we scale globally, especially from a recruitment and resources perspective. But I think we'll get into a lot of that detail through the questions.
Oh, I love that, Dov. And I think what's particularly exciting is seeing how you've stayed close to hiring and remained the custodian of that. A lot of people, as the business grows, as the CEO and founder, would have got further and further away from that. And so I'm really keen. I know that, and I've experienced that as well. You've hired amazing people and they think the world of you. So it definitely goes both ways. So please share with us. You're saying you started it out of a passion. It was close to home, close to your heart. How did that impact on the type of people that you were willing to hire and bring into your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think and it's funny, I was talking about it to someone this morning. My co-founder, so the guy who I kind of brought on, within 3 or 4 months of starting the business, is a guy by the name of Daniel, and he's the CFO of the business, and he's a CA, so he's an accountant, but he's a very entrepreneurial accountant. And what I was telling this person this morning in this meeting was that I can unequivocally say the business would not be where it is if it wasn't for Daniel. And I think I very early on realized and acknowledged what my strengths and skills were, and certainly more so what my weaknesses were. And I knew that in order to build this business into what my ambition was, I needed someone to be my partner, and I needed him to be the yin to my yang. And that's exactly what I found in him. And I guess, 11 years ago, you kind of think that, but you don't know how that's going to turn out. I remember when I pitched the idea to him, literally from the study in my bachelor pad at the time is where we started the business. I said to him, I need someone to put my ideas into an Excel spreadsheet. And that's exactly what he has done, and obviously done some other stuff. But, like the strengths and weaknesses between the two of us were quite obvious at that time. And they've just been augmented and grown since then. And his weaknesses, have grown because they were my strengths. So he's grown a lot as a leader and as the CFO of the business. And my weaknesses, which were his strengths, have also grown. So they've been very complementary. We've been very complementary to each other. And I think, Jane, sorry, I'm answering your question, short question with a long answer, is, kind of understanding what my downfall, my blind spots, my weaknesses were, and finding someone who I think could complement that and would create synergy between what it is that I needed to do was kind of the 101 to hiring in a very early stage startup where we had absolutely no idea what we were doing.
I really like what you're saying, Dov, because so many leaders that I speak to, if they think of hiring top performers, a lot of them go into cloning mode. Let me find somebody
Yes.
else who's just like me. And I
Yeah.
really like that you define a high performer, top performer as somebody who
Mm.
also complements you and perhaps has strength where you see yourself as weakness and vice versa. So what are
Absolutely. And
the
I think just to add to that, just to close
yeah,
that point, is that, you know, you do see a lot of leaders who, whether it's intentional or not, you know, kind of hire people that are just going to be yes men and women.
yes.
And I've now, and you know, I've now created an exco in our business. There's now 5 of us, including myself, of probably the smartest and most opinionated people I could ever wish to come across. And they challenge every single thing that I say. And we challenge each other, and the conversations and the debates are robust, you know, to the extent that I sometimes feel like I need to lie down after our Monday morning exco because they are so robust. But I think, again, that has been, you know, one of the true benefits and the true kind of secrets to success about having
Mm.
an executive team that is, you know, robust and are not
Mm.
yes men and women, and you know, will challenge each other and kind of hold each other accountable.
Mm. I love that, Dov. Again, I know so many people who are so afraid to hire somebody who will challenge them. And the secret to success is really having that courage to hire people who
Mm.
are different, who will challenge you. Um, so I'm hearing that if you're hiring top performers, then it's about the attitude. It's not necessarily just skills. It's about somebody who is different or is more similar, but they have the courage to say what they
Mm.
think and to challenge somebody who's a leader. So it's not kind of restricted to title or level. It doesn't sound very hierarchical.
Mm.
So what are those kind of non-negotiable pieces in people's attitudes that you look for when you hire top performers?
You know, I think that has also evolved over time, and I want to just give kind of one anecdote, which will hopefully explain what I mean by that. So,
Mm.
when we started Merchant Capital, we, you know, out the blocks, I called us a fintech because it was the thing that we needed to be, and fintechs were the businesses that were kind of challenging, you know, the incumbents. The truth was, we were, at least for the first 5 years of business, we were fin and not very tech. In fact, we were no tech. We did everything off an Excel spreadsheet. And we still called ourselves a fintech because I think without that, we probably wouldn't have got, you know, no one would have noticed us. But after about 5 years, I realized that, you know, shit, we actually better now become a real fintech, and we need to hire someone who understands technology, because Daniel and myself, I don't want to call us old or technologically inept, but we certainly were not technologists. You know, I was a finance and economics guy. Dan was an accountant. We were entrepreneurs. We knew nothing about tech. And we kind of knew that in order to really differentiate ourselves and to scale the business to where we wanted to, we needed to be enabled and supported by technology. So
Mm.
after, as I say, about 5 years, I kind of went to the market and I said, I need to find the best chief technology officer in the country. That was my brief to the, you know, to the recruitment agents at the time and to our shareholders. And it was quite an audacious brief because we were a tiny business at the time. You know, who were we to say, you know, that we want that we could afford, number one, and secondly, more importantly, why would someone even, you know, consider leaving their job and coming to work here? And to cut a long story short, we identified someone who actually was referred to me through Rand Merchant Investment Holdings. And this guy is an engineer, and he had been involved in a business for about 15 years. It was one of the Dimension Data or Internet Solutions businesses, and he had kind of been in a relatively entrepreneurial environment. It was a business called Pocket, which was actually before its time. They were the first guys to launch these M pauses. So like it was called a Pocket Pause, just something that connected to your phone, you know, before the Yokos of the world had even been thought about. So he understood payments and he understood technology, and he had been he had cut his teeth in this hugely entrepreneurial environment, which was internet solutions at the time and dimension data. And I'll never forget, I met this guy, and he kind of said to me, "Listen, Dorv, I love their idea. I think you guys are onto something, but I don't think you can afford me." And I said, his name is Dave, and he still is the CTO in this business. And I said, "Dave, give me a sense." And he gave me the number. He had 3 kids in private school. And he kind of had a monthly, run rate that he needed to fund. And he said, "It's not a negotiation. This is what I need to live. And, if you can't pay it, then unfortunately I can't leave." And I remember at the time working out that it was double what I was earning. So literally 2 times what me now as the CEO of the business was earning. And I remember it was a 5-second decision. I said, "This is the guy we need. I don't care if he's earning triple what I'm earning. We need to bring him into the business." And we brought him into the business. And, again, with hindsight, it's easy to say it was the best decision we've ever made, because Dave came in as the CTO. He's now converted our business from from just fin into a real fintech. We've got about 25, maybe even more, probably closer on 30 kind of engineers and analysts and tech people that report into him. And he's been fundamental to the success of our business. So, thankfully by now our salaries has been a little bit more of equilibrium in the salaries. But, for 2 years, or maybe it was even 3 years, he was by far the highest earner in our business. But it was a decision that we made very quickly. And that kind of, was, kind of set us up in good stead. So I do want to, what I was trying to tell you by that little story, what I was trying to demonstrate is that I do think having this kind of culture of high and top performers does evolve as your business grows, right? Because there's different seasons of one's business, and people need different people to come and fulfill different roles at different stages of the business. So, for example, in year 1 or year 2, we would never have been able to afford Dave, even if we wanted to. Just never mind that he would be earning 5 times what I was earning. The business couldn't afford it. So we finally kind of got to a point where the business could afford it. And, I think hopefully what you'll, kind of work out about me after a small amount of time is that I have zero ego. I don't give a shit, excuse my language, about titles. We build here a meritocracy. So the cream rises to the top. And if he was the best person for the job, then he's the best person for the job. It didn't matter if he was earning, more or less than the CEO. There was no hierarchical kind of perception of that, which I think was really important. And we've managed to kind of carry that through, as we've gone from a startup into a small business now into what I would call a medium-sized business, which has, 90 staff and, is very profitable and kind of big shareholders, big institutional funders. But we've always kept that, that level of excellence. There's kind of no fat in the system. There's no margin for apathy. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about kind of what we define as the A team, who are the people that work here. But, as a principle, it's about finding the best possible people for the job and making sure that those people buy into the values, the impact, the North Star, and really what we're trying to do every single day at Merchant Capital.
Yeah, Dav, and I think, how you've described yourself, you use the word audacious every now and then. That is you. And absolutely, I think you're not attached to an ego. And so just as much, I think it's very clear to me that just as much as you seek out high performers, they would be very attracted to that environment because they want to shine. They want a place where they can make an impact. So if they have a leader who's sticking them into a hierarchy and not allowing them to shine, that's not going to be attractive. So I love how you put the business first, values first, and really pulled those people in. And that it shows, as you say, your overnight success in 11 years, is testimony to that. And I know you're sharing about a lot of success stories. I'm wondering whether along the way, has there ever been a situation where you hired somebody and you thought, no, that wasn't a good decision? You don't have to mention names, of course. But I'm wondering whether along the way you came across challenges or regrets in terms of how you hired people.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I can tell you, unfortunately, a few stories of people that didn't kind of work out. Thematically, when we in again, it was kind of in the first 5 years of business when we were just figuring shit out. We thought that in order to really scale the business, to become a national business, because at the time we were really just focused on Gauteng, because that's where we were. We needed to have offices and physical presence in all the kind of major cities in South Africa. So, in our genius, and I say that with humility, because at the time it certainly seemed like the right idea, but it ended up not being. We opened up offices in Pretoria, Cape Town, Durban, PE, Mossel Bay, and Bloem. So we opened up all these offices, and in Mossel Bay and Bloem, it was small offices, maybe 3 or 4 people, 2 or 3 people. In Cape Town and Durban, it was maybe 6 or 7. So they weren't big offices, but we as a management team, in retrospect, were just not mature enough, and we didn't have the sufficient processes and systems in order to manage a national sales team. And I think, kind of myself and Dan and even Dave and, the guys who were kind of the early stage leadership team, we were all quite entrepreneurial, and we didn't have anyone in the business who was, had a little bit more corporate rigor. So, for example, I've never worked in a corporate before. Please God, I never will, because I think I would be half the man that I could ever be. And nor had my kind of, leadership team. So we didn't have that corporate rigor of systems and processes and metrics and KRAs and all the fancy stuff that we've got now in the business. So we just kind of went out as entrepreneurs and opened all these offices and hired these people. And it did its thing, but it was not successful. And we actually landed up closing all those regional offices because we just couldn't. We didn't have the management infrastructure in order to manage that. And in fact, we haven't opened any regional offices since then. And naturally, the business has grown from strength to strength. But we had some people who at the time sold us a dream around kind of managing these regional offices. And unfortunately, none of those dreams became a reality. We landed up getting rid of all of those people ultimately.
Okay. And Dov, in terms of your future plans for growth now, I know we spoke a little bit about how you are growing and there are plans for growth. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you think that's going to affect or impact your hiring strategy?
So I think we, as I said, we're 85 or 90 people now. Like I genuinely hope, and I say this with all the respect in the world, that we never are a 200-man business, because I don't know. I just don't think it's something that we would want to be. So we've really invested in our team and making sure that we have these like super 18 players who, have the capacity, the ambition, the hunger, the energy to do the job of 3 people or whatever that may be. And further to that, we've really invested in technology, that allows us to kind of create this chassis where we can really leverage off. And I don't think that we need to hire another 100 people in order to kind of achieve that we wanted to achieve. So we will continue making kind of these strategic hires, as we go. But the kind of business that we now are pretty confident that will differentiate us and help us kind of be the category owners, will not require a huge amount of staff complement. And that's kind of been the strategy, is like invest in the people that we've got, really build up this kind of what we call the second tier leadership team. And I'll talk a little bit around what I mean by that in a minute, and really just have this organic growth within the business, and really create space for the future leaders to grow and learn, significantly, and be the future leaders of the business.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you talk about creating space for people and having a fluid structure. So I know that that adds to talent retention. You attract the best people and they stay with you. A lot of people I find globally at the moment are talking about, it's just one thing to attract top talent, but how do we retain them? And a lot of companies are really battling with that. So what else do you put in place or encourage or foster that you think adds to retaining these high-performing people in your team?
So I'll talk a little bit around kind of the recruitment process. So first of all, we have been extremely deliberate, and I think we did it last week or 2 weeks ago, Jane. I think I mentioned this on our first discussion, where we had a full day where we brought in all the recruiters that recruit for us. And we had a workshop with them, kind of explaining to them what our EVP is, our employee value proposition within Merchant Capital, what we stand for, what are our values, what is the impact that we're having. So when they are kind of selling the business to a potential candidate, it's not just like a factory that they're churning. So I think that was something, that was useful. And then, there will be a kind of initial scrub that will be done by the head of HR here. And then the team manager would kind of interview the potential candidate, and they would really check for experience and skill. And then I get every single person to complete a document which really talks to, like a motivation for why we think we should hire them at Merchant Capital. And in that, and which I'm happy to share, by the way, in that document, it kind of says, what are the things that you think that they tick the boxes for, from a culture, work ethic, passion. Are they interested in the impact we're making? Are they A-team players? So we've got kind of like a simple checklist. Then what we do is every single person that's coming into the business, from the office PA up to the CEO, and I have done it as well, every single person does a psychometric test. We use a product called Everlex, which we've been using for forever. I'm not saying it's the best, but we know it's, we now have done so many of these Everlexes, we are able to benchmark it. And what we actually do is we take our top performers. So let's just say we take our top salesperson, we get them to do an Everlex every year. So repeat the Everlex. And then when we're looking at hiring a salesperson, we benchmark the attributes of this candidate's Everlex against the top salesperson. So we can kind of look for, commonality or common threads in certain characteristics when looking for a certain role. And it depends on the level that the person coming in, depends on the Everlex that they do. So for like senior management, the one I did, it was a full day. You had to take a full 8 hours out of your day and do this Everlex. So we really are trying to figure out if these people are serial killers, which we hope that they're obviously not. But the findings of the Everlex have been incredibly predictive. And again, I'm more than happy to, without going into too much detail, I'll just share what I mean by that. And then finally, if they've passed the Everlex, the team lead has kind of put them forward and motivated. I will then meet with every single person that comes into this business. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy. And I've now, done this with, over the years, must be over 200 candidates. And I've got the same pitch to every single candidate that comes in. I'm saying, guys, this is the final interview. I'm not here to test your technical ability. So if you are an engineer, I'm not going into your engineering capability. If you're an accountant or you're a sales, I'm assuming by the time you've got here, the person that put you forward has already checked that. Today is purely a chemistry check. It's a culture check. And as the custodian of the culture, I'm here to ascertain whether you will be a fit in this business. Because as I kind of kicked off this conversation saying, I unequivocally believe that the people are the differentiator in this business. I need to make sure that I think that this person will kind of fit that mold. And then what I say to them, which is completely genuine, it's also your opportunity as in the candidate's opportunity, to get to spend an hour with me and ask me any questions you want. Tell me, any concerns you have, any clarifications, anything you want to know. I'm a relatively transparent, open book guy, and I'll probably answer whatever it is. So, and I always think, like, I would have loved this opportunity, because I've worked for businesses before where I've had a boss. I would have loved this opportunity to kind of spend an hour with the future kind of CEO, whether I'm going to be their direct report or not, to just understand it. And a lot of it comes out of this kind of culture check or chemistry check. And we talk 90% around me getting to know them better personally. And I say to them, I've got like this famous saying. I'm saying, guys, take me all the way back. Tell me about your parents, your siblings, what you were like as a kid, what you were like in primary school. Like, and really it's like, I've kind of created this methodology or this ability to, if someone says I'm an 18 player, like to almost unpick that from what, give me an example. Were you competitive? Whether you were competitive in chess or ballet or rugby or cricket, it's all the same thing. And like, give me ideas. Or you're saying you're innovative, tell me how you were innovative at, in some shape or form. So we hardly speak about their professional career. I really get to know them personally, speak about their partners, their spouses, their family, their kids. And it's quite interesting what you find out about someone. And then if that person gets successfully hired, within the first month of every candidate's journey at Merchant Capital, and we're probably hiring, 3 to 5 people a month or whatever it is, I'll then put aside 2 hours, and it's called the CEO introduction. And I'll spend 2 hours with all the new recruits. And I'll say, guys, remember a couple of weeks ago where I said, tell me everything about you? I said, the tables have now turned, and I'm going to tell you my story. And we spend 2 hours kind of just talking about, my upbringing and kind of what drives me and what's important to me, what my values are, and then the founding of Merchant Capital and all of that. And I think, everyone who has that experience, will subsequently say that it's one of the best experiences of their onboarding. It's kind of getting that time, with the CEO and the founder of the business. So, we take the recruitment of these high performers, as you can hear, incredibly seriously. We're very fussy. We're making sure that, if we're on the fence with someone, we don't make an offer, because we believe that intuition and gut is normally right. So I don't want to say we've got it right 100% of the time, because that would be way too arrogant. But I think we've got it right 90% of the time. And, I guess the caveat to that is that it's a long, drawn-out recruitment process. And I think recruiters find it a little bit tiring. And we completely acknowledge that, and we apologize for that. But we've got very, very low attrition in the business because of that. And I think the people who are here are the people that we then grow and nurture into real stars, into real high performers.
Yeah, Dav, I know you're like, my goodness, the recruiters get frustrated with the length of the process. I think I was just reading Chantal's comment in the chat box saying she wishes more of the clients, and I agree. I think a lot of people wish more of the clients took this initiative to firstly train external recruiters so that they reflect your brand and engage in a way that really boosts your brand and is accurate and authentic, and helps them find the best people. I think you really motivate your outsourced partners to do that. And again, some leaders, CEOs would see it as a waste of time to spend an hour with each new recruit. But I really see how that investment of time actually saves time in terms of the bigger picture and who you attract and the fact that they stay. And I love that you see it's both ways. Again, I've been speaking to leaders recently, and some are still stuck in that inappropriate balance of power where they think they're just there to sit back and select people and expect that they can treat them how they want, that the candidate must shine. And I love how you're set on, no, we also need to shine for the candidate. This is a two-way decision.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's very inspiring, and it makes perfect sense why and how you attract the best people and why they stay. So I do want to open it up so that other people can ask questions and find out more. So before we do that, are there any other pieces that you would like to share, or tips for people who want to recruit high performers? Please do share those.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me, yeah, well, one of the main things is kind of be genuine and honest around what you're selling. Make sure that what you sell is actually what it says on the can. And what I mean by that is, we talk a lot about an environment of organic growth, and we talk a lot about merchant capital being an environment of a meritocracy and a culture of growth, and that the kind of the top will raise, the cream will rise to the top. And we are genuine about that. And I think, what can be a little bit disconcerting is leaders or recruiters or HR or head of people that say things and then people arrive and the culture is completely different. So I think be honest in who it is that you are. And if you're saying that you're a business that really supports growth, then make sure that you do that, because otherwise, you lose this kind of sense of credibility and integrity. And we will always kind of advertise for a new role internally. So the internal kind of job spec will go out, the JD will go out, and we have successfully promoted a lot of people from internal. I mean, my famous story is that I hired an executive PA. Her name is Robin Erasmus. And during the interview process, she had done like a master's degree in psychology at the University of the Netherlands. And I remember saying to her, Robin, you like way overqualified to be my PA. And she said, I'm not. I believe that coming in as the PA, as your exec PA, will give me an opportunity to learn you and to learn the exco and the leadership. And if I can grow from there, then I can grow from there. And unfortunately for me, or fortunately for her, she was the best PA I've ever had in my life, and she outgrew her role within 6 to 8 months. And she then started kind of showing a proclivity towards product management, specifically in the tech role. And she put forward some courses that we paid for. And kind of fast forward, this is probably about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years ago. She's now running a tech team, of about 15 people or whatever. And she is a huge asset to our business. And the truth is that she is the future CFO of this business. We are priming her to take over. Sorry, CTO. We are priming her to take over from Dave, and he's mentoring her to do that. So this girl came in as a PA. I mean, this is one example. I've probably got 3 or 4 of this. Our office manager, who's a young African girl by the name of Tato. She kind of came in and she was literally the office manager. She was ordering stationery and checkers. And she started showing this affinity towards selling. And we gave her the opportunity. She's now the top salesperson in what we call the informal market, because she can talk the languages. She's got 3 or 4 people reporting for her. We've got all different business units fighting for Tato to come into her. And I mean, this has only been 18 months, and as I say, I've got 5 or 6 examples of that, which are genuine. These people come in, and when I kind of look at it, first of all, it makes me incredibly proud, like really, to see this kind of growth. And I kind of take a step back and I say, like, how is this happening? What have we done? And I think it's the environment and the culture and the openness, and us actually being genuine in kind of, we're saying, guys, there's no glass ceilings here. Literally no glass ceilings. If you are a person that wants to come in from 9 to 5 and sit in your cubicle and just do enough to get your salary and a 13th check, there's a place like that. There's thousands of opportunities like that. It's just not at Merchant Capital.
Right.
And it's kind of, if you want to come in here and really be an 18 player, and we define what being an 18 player is, and you really want to come and stretch yourself and give 120% and grow like you've never grown before, and be out of your comfort zone every day, then if you say that that's what you want to do, show us. And if you show us, we're going to just, kind of create this path for you, which allows this growth. And as I say, we've got 5, 6, 7 people that have been on the most incredible growth curve in a very short amount of time. And those are the future leaders of this business. And what I mentioned earlier is we've started this thing called LEAD, which stands for Learning, Education, and Development. And we actually got an outside kind of facilitator in to do it. And the first kind of cohort, as we called it, was any manager that has more than 2 people who are working from it. And it was a 6-month course where every Friday it was 4 hours out of their day. And it's a big commitment. And people were like, geez, we're so busy. I don't know if we can do it. And we, even as a leadership team, said, this is a lot of time. And about 3 weeks ago, they presented to us as an exco as the first kind of cohort. And I promise you, I almost had tears in my eyes. I could not believe how much this group of people had grown. And they were leaders from all different, from technology, from finance, from admin, from marketing, from tech. And, it just almost like it kind of pull down these boundaries between them, the cohesion and the osmosis of how these people work together, but never mind how much they have grown. And I just I kind of gave a little talk at the end, and I said, guys, this is like one of the proudest moments in Merchant Capital's history. I feel confident that we have the next leaders, the future leaders of today in this cohort. And it feels like I, together with my current existing leadership team, can kind of go on and conquer the world and do other things, because it feels like this team is like real safe hands and have got it. So I think it's been a great experience for us, kind of learning and just giving people the space, to grow into what they can potentially be.
Wow, well done, Dov. Well, that is so inspiring. And that's so important for people today. People are looking for authenticity. People are not just looking for what you say on your website. They want to see that it really is there in the culture. And I love that you support people's dreams, even if you're losing your best PA. Again, you see it's not about you and your comfort. It's about the company, and it's about them and their careers. So, wow, I am so inspired just hearing your story and hearing what you do, and how many lives are impacted just by your approach to hiring and your approach to helping people grow in the organization. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for what you do for people's lives. And as a South African, it makes a difference for South Africa as well.